Greetings, strangers queer and pleasant. I'm not Laura Kate Magnetdale.
And I'm not Jane Aerith Magnetdale. And welcome to another episode of Queer and Pleasant Strangers. It's a podcast for two queer trans women, that's us, we're wifey types.
Yeah.
Have a bit of a catch-up about pop culture media we've consumed in the past week, while doing silly little voices and things at each other to try and have a bit of a giggle.
A bit of a giggle. In this, our year 2025.
Yeah, for giggling has not yet been outlawed, so we continue, for now, we continue to giggle.
Yep.
And even once it's outlawed, we'll probably continue to have illicit giggles.
Illicit giggles.
Possibly,
sounds like us.
Possibly at things we've played in the week.
It would. Have you played things?
I played some things.
You played some things?
Yeah.
Tell us about a thing you played.
I've not played a huge amount this week. It's been more of a watched week, but I started playing through a game that I've had my eyes on for a while. It finally came out this week. Spirit Swap. Lo-fi beats to match 3 to.
Yeah.
So this is a cute pastel witch aesthetic match 3 game with a story mode. And I've not had a huge amount of time to play it to get much into the story elements of it, but I can talk about what the match 3 gameplay is like. It sure does come with some chill lo-fi beats to play a match 3 game too.
I've heard the music's very good.
The soundtrack is fantastic. There are some wonderful lo-fi beats. Generally speaking, the gameplay is very traditional match 3 in that you are swapping 2 adjacent horizontal gems to try and get them to line up. If you get some to line up and then more drop to fill in the gap and they also line up and make a match 3, you can get a sort of cascading effect.
Nice.
Your very traditional match 3 stuff. Early on, the main mechanic I've encountered that sort of separates this is by getting match 3s, and particularly by getting, like, chains of them or multiple at once and things like that, you fill up a meter that's used for magic spells.
Okay.
And the way these spells work is that you need to have done enough things to fill up meter, but you also then have to arrange some gems in a particular pattern without accidentally creating a match 3.
Okay.
That is your sort of like spell sigil. So the starting one, for example, is you make a square, a 2x2 square of a single colour, but you be careful not to accidentally make a 3 anywhere in that. And at that point, it'll sort of like, a target will lock onto it and be like, this will activate the spell, and the first spell you have access to is you press a button, and it will just clear off the top half of the board. So, like, all gems in the top half of the board will just be completely wiped off.
Nice.
Which is cool. The thing that's an interesting challenge about the way that this system works is, if you think about that spell, where you're clearing off the top half of the board, that's the kind of thing you would want to hold on to until you're in a bad position, and, like, need a get-out-of-jail card to buy you some time.
Yeah. But
it's hard to keep a spell sigil intact, because let's say this 2x2 square that I've created, if I've created it when I'm in a good healthy position in the game state, and then I go back to matching 3s, if I create a match 3 anywhere below half of that 2x2, half of that 2x2 is going to like fall down and no longer be in the 2x2 shape. Yeah. I'll no longer have it active. So you can't like prepare the spell, and you can, but it's going to impact your ability to play if you try and create the spell preemptively and just have it sat around for when you need it. It's more a case of you have to recognize that things are getting toward I'm going to need that spell, and very quickly try and find a way to make it on the fly.
Yeah.
Which is interesting. It is a unique mechanic, and it sets it apart from something like Tetris Effect, where you build up that meter that lets you, like, at any time you can spend that meter to, like, completely pause time, so you just have breathing room to do a bunch of Tetris. This isn't that kind of, I can just have it in my back pocket and it will always be there the instant I need it to get out of a bad jam.
Yeah.
You have to recognize a bad situation and be prepared to scramble to get your spell ready when the spell is needed. I'm definitely enjoying it, and I do like that the way the spell system is set up does separate it from something like Tetris Effect in a way that is noticeable. It doesn't just feel there's no match 3 I've played that feels quite like this.
Yeah.
And that is always nice to see in a game. Soundtrack is great. The theming of the narrative, as I said, I'm not very far into the narrative, but the story seems to basically be the things you're match 3ing are little spirits, and your job is that you're, like, helping little spirits get home by helping them buddy up with friends so that they can have some other little spirits to help them find their way to where they're trying to get to.
Yay.
You're just a little spirit guardian doing your little lo-fi match 3s, and it's adorable and charming, and I want to put more time into it and see where it's going narratively. But right now, it is a mechanically unique spin on match 3 with some great soundtrack. So, and that's enough for me to be into it right now.
Nice.
What about you? What have you been playing this week?
I have been playing through Rusty's Retirement.
Yeah, tell me about this little idle game you've had going down the bottom of your computer.
It's an odd one for an idle game. Firstly, it doesn't really let you idle very much until you've got the most expensive building in the game, which in theory you could just like save up and get by either idling a really long time or sorting some other things out. But basically, the concept is you are retired and you're farming. And you have like a plot of ground and you're going to try and plant things on it. And as time goes on, you're going to unlock more different types of crops to plant. You're going to unlock various, or be able to use different robots that will help you with watering, harvesting, and basically recycling the crops. All of the crops can be fed into a generator to make biofuel, and the biofuel is basically like one of the main currencies of the game.
Yeah,
you've got spare parts and biofuel, and biofuel can always be turned into spare parts just with a click on one side of the bottom. Retirement is a weird decision to call this, because played to get all of the achievements and stuff, which you would assume is something desirable from, like, here are guidelines for things you could do with the game.
Yeah.
It feels weird that this would be called retirement, because it's basically working constantly.
Yeah. The impression I'm getting from the outside is because the robots are obviously automating, you could play it as an idler, but you could also try and real min-max it.
Yeah, you can play it as an idler. The only thing that robots can't do until you unlock the most expensive building is plant things.
Yeah.
So they can do the watering, they can do the harvesting, they can feed things into the bio burner to get more fuel.
Yeah.
But they can't plant things on their own. So you will need to be the one that jumps into that. And initially, a lot of the plants don't take very long to be ready to harvest.
Yeah.
So if you've got things that are automatically harvesting them, you need to be able to like look at that. Rusty will help with things sort of early on, but if you've got too many plots for all the different types of food or all the different types of crops, then he's not going to have time to get to all of the things. Also, initially he's the only one that can do any building, so it's like you could theoretically build something that's kind of pretty.
Yeah.
But it's less about like just sort of plodding along and doing a thing, and more like, here are all the things to unlock and here are all the extra things to get. And then like you're unlocking buildings for other friends who will like give you stats about your farm or sell you things to use as decorations, or you're trying to pay to expand the size of your plot, which basically means going into the section slightly off from where you start and cleaning up all the rubbish that's there. You will get money back for the rubbish you clear up, but then just expanding into that. And it surprisingly for an idler, it demands a lot of your attention. Like, it has a quote-unquote focus mode, where basically all it does is it makes the timers take twice as long. So it's like, you can get on with other things and not worry about the game so much. But I feel like even with double time quite early on, you're not going to be making very much progress unless you are there to, like, babysit replanting things. Like, I played it all day yesterday and all day today, and I've basically just unlocked the last type of crop.
Yeah.
and kind of finished at least a like the base version of this. There's different biomes you can go to. So there's like a farm you can go to between two rivers. You can have it across the bottom of your monitor or up one side.
Yeah.
It can obviously go on in the background, but it's surprisingly, like, even Cookie Clicker, once you've got like a few of the basic things, will click on its own.
Yeah.
And probably faster than most humans can. So, like, you can very much leave that alone, no problem. Where this one doesn't really feel like you can leave it alone and really be making any kind of progress. At least until you can get to a point where you can automate replanting things. But then also you've got to get the robot that will upgrade your robots for you. And that robot will take time to do any upgrades. And those upgrades get progressively more expensive the more of that thing you have, the more of that type of upgrade you've done for that type of robot. Yeah, it looks quite cute once it's all sort of laid out. But, yeah, you can play it in such a way that it is very much about efficiency and making the most of the space that you have.
Yeah.
And certainly that is a way to do it for at least unlocking everything. But I definitely don't think that's a fun way to, like, a cute, fun, calming, chill way to play it.
Yeah.
But yeah, Rusty's Retirement, it's currently on sale, because there is an Idler Fest on Steam at the moment.
Yeah.
And I'd been looking at it for a while as like a cute little thing to run in the background, but it at no point really felt like something that just could be left alone in the background and would be doing anything good with. But yeah, I basically played through that now on the base biome. What about you? What have you played?
I started playing a little bit of... so I was looking for stuff on Game Pass to try playing, and there is a remake or remaster that has happened of Ninja Gaiden 2 Black. And this is... It's a 3D action game from the PS2 era that was, I think it was early 360, it might have been early 360. Brutally fucking hard.
Yeah, like I've
game.
never played any of the modern ones, but like I know that the Spectrum version I think was the original, and that is like notably balls to the wall hard.
Yeah, so Ninja Gaiden 2 has had like a few different versions, like Black and Sigma over time, that have balanced their difficulty differently, and this one. This has an easier difficulty I don't remember existing previously, but also on top of that, it's been balanced a little bit. Like, it feels like it's been balanced somewhere between the two versions of that game I remember playing back in the day, of fewer enemies, there seems to be less enemy density than I remember, and I've been able to just, it's felt a little bit more manageable to play as a bit of a hack and slash brawler than I remember it, but maybe that's just because I have more, familiarity with the genre over a couple of decades. I've been having fun with it primarily since I picked up a weapon that was a big twirly stick with blade on the end. And I've literally just been running up to every encounter where people try and come and attack me, and I just twirl my big blade stick around, and I'm twirly, and just mash the button to be twirling it in circles around me, and let things sort of run at me and get hit by the big twirly stick.
Well, it's their fault if they run at you while you're spinning your big pointy twirly stick.
And they keep giving me more weapons, and I'll use them for a minute or two going, oh, metal claws, that's pretty cool. It's not keeping the enemies as far away from me as the big twirly stick that I twirl in circles around me and stuff can't quite touch me.
I need that distance. I need that range.
I'm not having a bad time with it, but it's one of those that as someone that enjoys a good character action game every now and then, particularly stuff from studios like Platinum, this it's aged. You can feel the age on this. It feels clunky. Character action is one of those genres that, going back a couple of decades, you can feel the quality of life improvements just falling away very quickly. It's an interesting experience going back with modern games in the genre in mind and going, I don't feel nearly as able to reactively block or to dodge in ways that, like, I've got all these wonderful big invincibility frames as I'm doing my dodge, and I've got all this mobility.
Yeah.
Everything feels clunky and locked. Like, you do for a game about a ninja, you do an attack and you are very much locked in place while you do it in a way that's like, yeah, it's challenging. It's not in the moment as satisfying to have your hands on as stuff in the genre has become over the decades since.
It doesn't give you the opportunity to feel cool while you're doing it.
Yeah. And, like, I don't doubt there are people who are going to love it. I played it for, like, an hour or two and went, this was a nice revisit down memory lane. I have no interest in continuing with it.
Fair.
So I dipped my toes back into that and went, this genre sure has come a long way in a couple of decades.
Yeah, I guess your Soulsborns have really given you a, yes, a game can be hard, but also not feel unfair with it.
Well, you've got your Soulsborns, your Bayonettas, your stuff like that, and it's like, there's an ability to balance tough, but also I feel like a badass while I'm getting my ass kicked.
Yeah.
That it just doesn't quite capture.
Yeah, and that's definitely a loss on that.
Yeah. What about you? You been playing anything else this week?
I have been playing Zachtronic Solitaire.
Is that what you got down there?
Which is a collection of 8 solitaire games for Android devices.
I am aware of this because it came up in a video. I think it was a Polygon video talking about Balatro.
Yeah,
and
that's where I saw it.
Yeah, the history of interesting solitaire card game, digital games.
Yeah, like most 90s kids, I grew up playing Microsoft Windows Solitaire.
Yeah, the solitaire that was on your PC.
Yeah, with the robot deck or the spooky castle with the little occasionally flapping bats with their, like, 2 frames of animation.
Tee.
Yeah, I enjoy various types of solitaire, and this does give you, like, a lot of different variety of solitaire. So you've got Sawayama Solitaire, which is basically just a standard Klondike. But once you've dealt all the cards in the deck out, you can use the space that was previously the deck as a free cell.
Okay.
Which is quite nice.
That's cool.
You got Sigmar's Garden, which was originally in the game Opus Magnum, which is like that cross solitaire that you play with marbles. Do you know that?
Oh yeah.
It's got that sort of vibe, but it's more it is marbles, but it's basically like matching pairs, and you're trying to work your way into the center of this hexagon of marbles, matching pairs off, and it's got some interesting additions to it rather than just being match pairs, because there are, like, I think it's 5 symbols or 6 symbols that are very specifically have to be paired with this one exactly the same type of gem or marble, and which is, I think, salt, and then you're trying to go through all of the other alchemical symbols. And everything matches with salt, but you have to go through the list of alchemical symbols in order. So it's interesting going, okay, which salt do I use if I've got multiples open? How can I get to the next alchemical symbol without, like, locking myself out of something else? So there's a lot of thought to be do there. There's Proletariat's Patience, which is an interesting deck with considerably less cards in it.
Okay.
So it's got 4 face cards in each suit, and then the numbers 10 to 6.
Okay.
Which is trying to go off I believe it's a Russian deck.
Yeah.
A Russian-style deck, which has less numbered cards, and then 4 suit cards, which you would usually listed V, D, T, and K. But originally the creator was like, I didn't want to try and get people to learn a new deck system.
Yeah.
So what you have in this is you're trying to match the 4 face cards, which are all basically identical, and then you're doing a sort of standard red and black, alternating the numbers from 10 to 6. So, and as you fill up a set of 4 face cards in a free cell, that will just lock it off entirely.
Okay.
So it's interesting because you've got sort of ways of locking things off. And as they point out, it sort of suits the name quite well, because the bourgeoisie are all trying to gather themselves together and then scurry away. And the proletariat are also amassing outside. Which is, it's an interesting spin on a solitaire game. There's cribbage solitaire, which is like a point-scoring one. You have 4 stacks of cards, and you can play up to 31 points worth of cards to score points like on a crib board.
Okay.
And the deck of cards that he uses is a US military aircraft recognition deck that was used during the Cold War, that they purchased and scanned. There is Cluj Solitaire, which is actually using a Russian-style deck. So it does go TKDV and then 10 to 6. But the spin here is that you can, quote-unquote, cheat. So you can put one card on top of a stack that isn't in sequence. But then when you move that card, it has to go somewhere in sequence or into a free cell.
Okay, that's interesting.
And you can't put anything else on top of it.
Yeah.
So it's an interesting spin on that sort of idea while using a very different deck, and me being me, typically going, I need to constantly refer back to what order do the face cards go in? I'm getting there. One I'm particularly enjoying called Kabufuda, or Solitaire, which was inspired by the kinds of card decks used in Japan after being introduced by the Portuguese in the 16th century. Gambling was against the law, so they basically stripped all the numbering system out, so they couldn't be detected as being like a gambling style game.
These are just my little art cards.
These are your art cards, so you are matching sets of 4, but you only have a limited number of free cells to move cards in and out of. Originally it was only played with 1 free cell, but as you make sets, it will unlock further free cells, because technically every time you make a set and lock it in, you are losing a previous free cell. Which has been one of my favourites so far. Really interesting concept of just moving the things around really carefully when you have all of the information fully available to you from the start. And just a really limited amount of space to work in. There's Shenzhen Solitaire, which is another really fascinating idea. It's 9 cards plus symbols. And the symbols and the face cards all take from Mahjong pieces.
Yeah.
But then you only have 3 free cells, and it's 3 suits of 3 different colours rather than 4 suits of 2 sets of 2.
Yeah.
So you can't put same colours on same colours. So when you're building the sequence, sometimes you are literally just shifting things around from one stack to another to work in such a way that, okay, now I can move that onto that 6 because I had the wrong 5 on it before. It's a really interesting concept, and the sort of set of 4 quote-unquote face cards that you get are ultimately going to lock out some of your free cells. Basically, as you uncover them, if you've got one of them in one of the free cells at the top, you can press a button and it will scooch all of those away. Which sometimes is really useful and sometimes will make you realise that you've kind of fucked up. And the last one, which I haven't actually tried yet, is called Fortune's Foundation, which is a really super difficult one inspired by Fortress, in that you can get stuck really quickly. But look at how chaotic this is.
I mean, there's a lot happening in this glance I'm doing.
There's a lot happening. Yeah, I haven't given that one a try yet. But yeah, that's 8 solitaire games, and I think it's about a $5 on the Play Store for Android. Yeah. That's the thing I played. What did you play?
For me, the only other thing I've really been playing is I have been continuing most of this past week to try and beat my babysitting mama world record on the Yuto single baby any percent speedrun.
No, don't shake the baby.
No, don't shake the baby. I finally beat the record.
Hell yeah.
Did it last night. 120 attempts in for a 40-minute speedrun.
Just as you got rated.
Granted, not 120 attempts that lasted 40 minutes.
No.
A lot of them like, often it was, I would quit at the 5-minute mark when, like, I finished the first page and was like, I'm more than 3 seconds behind my target time.
Yeah.
Screw it, I know I can do better, I want to hit the ground running on a good speed. Or I made a silly mistake early on in, like, less than 2 minutes and I quit. But a lot of them were, like, attempts that were getting, like, 15 minutes in.
Okay.
You know, I put my time in, I put the work in.
Mm-hmm.
I beat the record in a run that how do I put this? So I'd been trying to beat this record for the better part of like 2 to 3 weeks, and once I got a North American copy of Babysitting Mama and like shaved that 4 minutes off, that's like the game runs at a different speed and the increased loading times. I'd gotten it down to like I need to shave 15 seconds off this record to beat the record. I need to shave 8 seconds off. I need to shave 4 seconds off. I was like slowly chipping a few seconds away at a time.
Yeah.
And this run where I beat the record, in the moment it didn't feel like anything special. If anything, there were points where I almost quit the run because I thought that it wasn't going to be statistically winnable.
Yeah. And then?
Yeah, like, of the 6 pages of minigames to be done, the 4th page, I accidentally got a don't shake the baby warning.
Don't shake the baby?
Which is, like, the biggest time loss you can get in the run. It is a solid, like, at least 8 seconds for this pop-up to complain at you about not giving the baby shaken baby syndrome. And I stuck with it regardless. I somehow still saved time compared to my previous best on that page.
Nice.
Which I think was down to I had ridiculously good luck on the photography minigame, which is one of the biggest RNG time variances in the run. There is a minigame where this baby's like running left and right to various locations and will eventually stop at one and you shake the rattle and take a picture. But depending on if the baby runs like 3 steps to the set of blocks like right next to you or 6 seconds of scrolling the screen to the like sometimes it can be like 6 or 7 seconds to get to where a picture needs to be taken. And there's like 7 pictures that need to be taken in this minigame. So good RNG on that is a really, like, can save you ridiculous time. The fact that I saved time on that page of minigames despite having a don't shake the baby warning tells you how good the photography went. And then I got to the last page, I was like, I needed to save about 4 or 5 seconds to hit compared to my previous best to take the record. And I knew where there was about 3 or 4 seconds of time save. So I was like, I should just about be able to squeak through the record here if I'm really good.
And squeak you did.
I wouldn't say squeak past that record. I beat the record by 11 seconds, and I don't know how that happened.
Best not to think about it.
I've watched it back. I know part of it is that I was really efficient with there's a minigame that's just baby will show up hungry, you feed the baby, and you're like bouncing back and forth trying to like feed them as soon as the hunger meter shows up. And I worked out a really efficient way that I was like not wasting any time during that. Didn't think I saved that much time on it.
And yet.
And yeah, I look at that and go, I don't know how it happened. But I'm not going to complain that I somehow beat the record by 11 seconds. That's great.
Yeah.
So, I beat the thing. Now I just have the All Babies record to retake, which is my, 3.5 to 4 hour long category.
Well, I would imagine at this point you have practiced with all of the different mini-games enough?
Only the ones for you, Tom. I've not touched any of the other 5 babies.
Are you going to go start looking at doing the other babies' mini-games?
Currently I hold the individual baby records for those babies still, so what I'm going to do is I'm just going to jump in and attempt a go at it, and go... I'm going to hope that all of the minigames are I have the muscle memory to do the movements correctly, and that everything else I can just sort of pick up on the fly. I've done this record before, and I'm just gonna hope that it comes back to me as I'm going.
Fuck it, we'll do it on the night.
Yeah, fuck it, we'll do it on the night. So, that's how Babysitting Mama is going.
Very well, apparently.
Apparently so. What about you? What else have you been playing?
We played Kabuto Sumo.
We did, I think
the original game.
I think we talked a little bit about this last week.
Yeah, we talked about Sakura Slam last week.
Yeah, so Kabuto Sumo generally is, for anyone who wasn't listening last week, is Penny Pusher, but with special abilities.
Yeah.
Is the best way to describe it, I
And
think.
your bugs doing, like, sumo wrestling.
Yeah, you're penny pushing, trying to, like, push other bugs off of the ring, and you've got little special powers you can activate.
Yeah.
But we did what was the one we did?
It was that we did Kabuto Sumo, so the round ring rather than the square ring that you have in Sakura Slam, which means that you can basically take your push from anywhere, rather than specifically having to go from the corners.
Mm-hmm.
And we played with the Total Mayhem expansion.
This is wrestling gimmicks.
I mean, it's supposed to be a type of wrestling anyway.
Well, yeah, but this is like your WWE wrestling as opposed to your sumo wrestling.
Yeah, this is your tables, ladders, and chairs matches, your Money in the Bank.
Yeah.
Yeah, what else was in there? We had,
we had a ladder match.
We had, like, jacks on the...
Yeah, we did.
Yeah. It was, as it said, pretty mayhem.
Yeah, it's each time you play it, you have one rules gimmick and one item for use in the ring gimmick.
Yeah, basically you're drawing two cards, one goes face down, one goes face up, and it depends on how you will use a prop.
Yeah.
Like, we had the chair match, which let us each start with a chair, and then if you push a chair out on your turn, you get to keep that and use it as one of your pieces. And usually in Kabuto Sumo, if a special piece is pushed out of the ring, that's generally just gone. Mm-hmm. But in this case, it was you are going to get another go with it, and those chairs are probably one of the biggest pieces in the game, and also really handily because of the way the legs on the chair sit. Mm-hmm. It means that you're quite able to, like, get a good grasp on something. If there's something specific you want to try and move in a very particular way. We played 6 games, going through at least one version of every single prop. Mm-hmm. So we didn't play, like, both sides of each card, but we did play one side of each card in each match.
Yeah.
And we won 3 each. So it was very evenly paced. But yeah, very much enjoying Kabuto Sumo, and I very much enjoyed specifically that manner of play. We still have 2 other expansion boxes to get through to have a look at. But yeah, you played with one of the promo wrestlers. You played with Fleur de Muertos.
Oh, the Flower of Death.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Where you stack, as I understand it, you stack the flower on your turn, and then once it falls out of the ring, you get it to use.
Yeah, it gets stacked on top of another disc, and if it gets knocked out, instantly I get to push it onto the board regardless of which player knocked it out. So I could either get a double turn or get a turn in the middle of your turn.
Yeah. It was
pretty funky.
Pretty interesting. I enjoyed the ladder match as well. You were doing a certain thing to get onto the ladder and then trying to climb up, and basically just sort of the person who wasn't on the ladder got to place where the ladder would go, so that they could try and push the other person out or off of the ladder and try and climb themselves. Yeah. I also enjoyed the jacks, where basically the I don't know what you call them, the spiky things.
Your thumbtack equivalent.
Your little thumbtacky things. As you knock them out, you could save them up and spend 3 of them to get a piece. I think it was.
Yeah. You could spend 3 that you'd knocked off the board to get any size of disc you wanted in your pool of pushable discs.
Yeah, which was like a fun little mechanic for just so much extra chaos of now, because usually you get the things that you push out, but also anything that falls out between turns just goes back in the box. So generally there is a possibility of the number of pieces throughout the game going down, but it was just going up and up and up and got pretty chaotic, but in a good way. Yeah, very much enjoying Kabuto Sumo so far. What about you? Have you played anything else?
That's about it for me this week.
Well then,
time for this.
Are you bored of traditional bed sheets? Just going over your bed from top to bottom, side to side?
Yes.
Tired of duvet covers that surround your duvet like a big, boring fabric sack?
For the purposes of this advert, yes.
Try something a little different, a little more exciting, a little more unexpected with our non-linear linens.
Oh.
This bedspread goes back in time.
Uh-huh.
You'll learn more about it the longer you sleep in it.
I don't know how to look at this.
Non-linear linens, just because.
I can see before I purchased it and after I purchased it at once.
Do you just love leftover takeaway as breakfast?
Yeah!
Then boy do we have the meal subscription box for you. Every morning we'll deliver you a box with just some leftover takeaway in it. It's like that meal you really love, except most of the good bits of it are gone, but there's still enough of it that it's still that good flavour you enjoy.
Yum! Flavour!
Did we remember to put the rice straight in the fridge immediately, or did we leave it a bit? You'll find out in a few hours.
It'll probably be fine.
Leftover meal box. Small portions of that thing you like for breakfast.
I'll take a chance on it.
Take a chance. So, what have you put in your eyes?
There's a big thing we've watched this week.
Oh, we watched so much of a thing.
We have watched most of seasons 1 and 2 of Spy Family.
Yeah.
For anyone who is looking for this after our description, it's written Spy X Family, but you don't say the X, it's Spy Family. This is an anime about a very sweet family not telling each other about the larger-than-life things they've got going on.
Yes, each of them has a secret.
Yeah, so the dad is a spy in a sort of Cold War analog for Germany. Basically, he's got to do some mission to infiltrate and, like, get in contact with this person who is instrumental to stopping this war from breaking out. The only way to do so is to he's very reclusive, he doesn't go anywhere. He does show up occasionally to social gatherings at this very fancy school. So, Spy, you've got to get a wife and child, get your kid enrolled in the school, get invited to this fancy gathering so you can meet this person and stop a war. We now have the fake wife, who is an assassin who is afraid of being, like, caught being an assassin because of the fact that she's, approaching 30 and single in the Cold War.
Yeah, it seems like the secret police are very sensitive about just randomly picking people up.
Yeah.
And, she's basically worried that it's going to look really suspicious that she's single and
constantly busy doing something, but it's not clear what.
Yeah.
Single, and she's hoping this will be her sort of camouflage career. Her camouflage is being part of just a very normal family.
But they haven't told each other that this is their roles.
Yeah, so the spy doesn't know the assassin is an assassin. The assassin doesn't know the spy is a spy, and their adopted child, who is a telepath.
Yes.
Who is like a 5-year-old telepath.
She was some sort of science experiment at some point, and she wound up in an adoption agency, and she's afraid of telling anyone that she's a telepath because at some point an adult who we haven't seen but has sort of echoed through her mind at various points in the series basically told her that if anyone finds out about her powers, they'll basically think she's a freak and have experiments done on her.
And she doesn't want to end up wherever it was she was being science experimented on before.
No.
But she obviously knows both of her parents' secrets because she's a telepath.
But she loves spy stuff, so she thinks it's cool as heck.
Yeah, so, she won't tell either parent that she knows they're a spy and an assassin, but she will occasionally, hear a thought from someone and go, I need to find a way as a cute, adorable child, not obviously, to do a thing that alerts my spy father to go catch that criminal without making it obvious I'm doing that.
And at some point she does have little hiccups where she will accidentally answer something that somebody else just thought.
Yeah,
it's like, hang on.
And it is this group of people who initially start as like a family of convenience of it is convenient to all of us to play at family, who seem to over time be very genuinely bonding and growing as a very sweet family.
Yeah.
But also, one minute it will be slice of life silly little family comedy, and then out of nowhere, the coolest fucking fight scene you've ever seen animated happens for a couple of minutes, and then it's back to just like fun little slice of life.
Anya wants a
drama.
puppy. Oh,
Yeah. I want to do a pretend story where we pretend that I'm being rescued by the spy from my cartoon.
Yes.
Now we've got to stop an international incident where there's like 15 bombs on a boat.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You know, just general, the normal stuff.
Yeah. It's adorable.
It is mostly incredibly sweet, and I have been deeply enjoying it. As I don't watch a lot of anime, but it's nice to. It was one I kept seeing clips of on TikTok, and was like, I think this is probably going to be the next thing we end up watching. And you'd also been like seeing people doing reaction.
I'd been
content.
floating around it, and I was like, I need to properly jump in and give it like an all a watch. And it's charming. It's funny.
The most part, yeah.
It's got a very sweet dub. The dub's been enjoyable.
Yeah.
Like the one thing really about
Yu's
it.
brother. It's Yu's brother, right?
Yeah. So there is a brother who is introduced, and there's no easy way to say this. His love for his sister is a bit incestuous.
It's a lot incestuous.
It's
like there is a flashback where he says, "When I grow up, I'm going to marry you."
Yeah. And like, here's the thing: if you cut out like that first episode in which he's introduced, for the most part, I don't think his character's that bad. It is character who largely feels he owes a debt of gratitude to a sister who gave up a lot to support him, and feels like he should, make a world that is safe for her.
Yes.
It's really just that first episode that is way too incest coded.
Yes.
And it's completely unnecessary.
Yes.
And it's not at all a big part of the show. He is very much a side character who, like, the number of times that this is uncomfortable to watch is very minimal. I want to say 2 or 3 times max. Yeah. I think that it is a very, like, it reminded me of watching, like, it's not uncommon that when watching anime you end up with this one thing you have to kind of apologize for. And the thing it made me think of immediately was watching My Hero Academia, which has a character who is just a huge pervert to all the women around. And that show got so bad that they had to do a scene in which in the background he's being Ludovico techniqued from A Clockwork Orange to fucking have a little background gag to stop him being a perv. Sometimes anime is like
Even
this.
Brock wasn't that bad.
Yeah. Honestly, as far as, like, the weird thing you have to apologize for in an anime, I don't think it's that bad in Spy Family.
But it did make me, flinch every time he was mentioned. Like, oh god, please don't let it be another episode with that dickhead.
When that first episode happened, I went, oh god, is this going to be, like... Is this going to be every second or third episode is going to be this now?
Yeah.
And thankfully...
That has not been the case.
Honestly, like, over time, his appearances have become rarer and rarer.
Which I appreciate.
I appreciate that he has been phased out after very little appearances.
Yep. Not a fan favourite.
Yeah. But yeah, it is a very fun, sweet... they've written and performed that child adorably. Like, Anya... is one of the best written, like, believable, butter wouldn't melt in her mouth child characters in anything. Very funny with the pacing of how to use the psychic powers. Mm-hmm. And then, as I say, just occasionally you'll have, like, here's a fight scene of one woman assassin versus, like, 15 people on a boat. And you'll go, that was fucking cool.
That was badass.
That was real fucking badass. Back to silly little family hijinks.
Now we need to work out if we're going to get through the next phase of school.
Yeah, it's very...
It is unusual how it, like, goes from, this is our, like, main thing, and it's very much about getting into school and getting through school, and then going, oh, this is a bit one note. Let's do something, like, really chaotic for a few episodes.
It really does go through little phases, where, like, for a while it will be primarily a show about the spy dad, then for a while it will almost exclusively be about Anya at school, trying to use psychic powers to navigate friendship and exams. And, like, we were talking about the fact that it felt like the assassin mother plot had been, like, completely forgotten.
And then
we had like a 9-episode arc entirely about assassin mum on a big job, and we're like, okay, you didn't forget.
Yeah.
It might slip into phases of being one thing.
It has many arcs.
It remembers to go, oh, we've not done you in a bit, let's do a big thing about you for a bit.
Yeah.
And I'm very endeared by these characters.
Yeah.
Even some of the ones who were initially deliberately standoffish characters, like the son of the person that we're trying to the spy's trying to meet up with.
Yeah.
That son, as much as he's initially a dick, they've done a great job over time of humanizing how he's gotten to be the way he is, and to go, I do have genuine sympathy for this sometimes asshole of a kid.
Yeah. Yeah, it's that typical thing of, you could make him really one-dimensional and just, he's just an evil kid.
Yeah.
But they have, fleshed it more out as, this is what it's like when your dad is, a super rich, super famous person who you never get to see and doesn't have any real time for his kids. And the stress that causes, especially when you're basically at a boarding school.
Yeah.
And it seems like some of the richer kids are basically taught it as a boarding school, and Anya does at least get to go home.
Yeah.
Yeah.
What about you? You been watching anything else this week?
Just that. What about you?
I've watched a couple of other little bits. Let me find. What have I been watching? I watched a film at the cinema.
You did?
I watched A Complete Unknown, which is a film that's recently come out about a sort of biopic film about Bob Dylan.
Ah.
And
Judas.
Watching it off the back of having watched the Robbie Williams Better Man.
Yes.
It reminded me how uncreative a biopic can be. And I'm not saying that A Complete Unknown was bad by any means, but it was a biopic that felt like it was sort of meandering without a purpose. You know, A Better Man, for any of the weirder moments it had, very much was like, we're going to set up a visual metaphor, and by the end of it, you're going to feel like we've been on a journey and gone, I understand what that metaphor was trying to say, and I feel like you made an effort to turn a person's life into a narrative arc that was building to something. Whereas A Complete Unknown is very much a series of events happen after each other, and there's a lot of it is just excuses for Timothée Chalamet, who's playing Bob Dylan, to sing a Bob Dylan song in a situation.
Did they get him to sing it, or did they just play it?
It sounds like it is Timothée Chalamet doing a Bob Dylan, and he does a very good Bob Dylan. I don't think it's Bob Dylan, but I think it's a very good Bob Dylan alike. I'm trying to work out how... It's a biopic, and as such, it's not really a spoilerable thing. It's the Wikipedia summary of a person's life, kind of.
But probably glamorized here, then?
I'm not gonna, go too deep into specifics, but to, sum up what this film did with 2 hours was Bob Dylan heard Woody Guthrie on the radio and went, I wanna play him music. So he goes and finds him in a hospital bed post-stroke and plays him some music. And then he gets a music career, and it's I think the narrative thread they were trying to build, I think the characterization they were trying to build was Bob Dylan is a person who actively resented being pressured to play his popular songs, but also didn't want to be defined by purely being oppositional. He didn't like the idea of the dichotomy being either I play the things that everyone demands I play, or I deliberately play the opposite just to unbox myself from that.
Right.
And that I can't just make a thing because I want to make it free of feeling like I'm playing into some kind of pattern.
Right.
I think that's what they were trying to communicate.
I don't want to be deliberately contrarian, but also I want to play what I want to play.
Yeah. And the way that is ultimately told is Bob Dylan refuses to tell his partner anything about, or anyone in his life anything about his past, and that never amounts to anything. There's never any, reveal of why that was, to be I was, there's no reason it's just a plot thread that goes nowhere.
It's not, this is what made me me, this is just...
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's just a thing I did that I won't contextualize for you. A lot of it is just Bob Dylan not really appreciating the people who helped him get his step up into fame, being way too quick to throw away the people who helped him up into fame the second that Johnny Cash started paying attention to him. Being like, oh, famous friend, fuck yeah, I want to have a famous friend. And being real shitty to women. Like being very willing to cheat on his partner because there was a more famous musician woman as an alternative option. And like, I can't deny Timothée Chalamet does a good Dylan performance, and I appreciate that he didn't sugarcoat a lot of Dylan's more that was a dick move, elements of his story. And they did a good job of telling a series of events, while I got to the end of it going, like, was there an arc that was being resolved? Like, did this reach a conclusion that was like, this feels like the end of a narrative? It felt like it reached a point, and this is where the film ends, so we're just not going to tell you any more of the story, kind of.
Yeah. I guess it's difficult with a real person to be talking about anything very specific, but like, I know, like, I haven't seen it, but I know with the Freddie Mercury biopic, it ended with that famous Wembley gig.
Yeah.
Like, it had a place to lead.
Yes. And again, like, look at something like Better Man recently. That builds to, like, a personal revelation on the part of Robbie Williams of, I built up to this big show, and this big show wasn't everything. It didn't do everything I hoped it would in my life. And
this one thing didn't solve all my problems.
And I stopped and wrestled with the fact that this isn't gonna solve everything. And like had a narrative conclusion. This is like Bob Dylan eventually played some slightly rocky music at a folk festival, even though they told him not to. And people had mixed opinions. Some of them loved it, some of them didn't. Now it's time for like 7 pages of white text on black screen saying what happened in the following decade of Dylan's career. Yeah, that concert was a notable one for his career.
Yeah.
But they don't build up, like, they don't give it room to breathe after that moment of, like, why was it important he do that? Did that give him the feeling that he had hoped it would give him? It just sort of the big event that you know about happens, and then the film just kind of ends. Without that event being an event that's built up as it's clear why this was the event that the film was building up to.
Right.
It was the one year that at the festival he kind of pissed off the organisers by playing not the genre he was supposed to.
How dare.
And like, I had a good time with it while feeling kind of baffled by its choices. So that's a complete unknown.
A complete unknown why they made a film about it.
Did you say you hadn't watched anything else?
No, not really.
That's about it.
We watched a lot of Spy Family.
We did watch a lot of Spy Family, and we watched Severance, which we're not going to talk about because spoilers, but
So many spoilers.
goddamn, that show's so good.
Oh, yeah.
Well, that's everything I've watched this week.
Well then.
Time for this.
Hey, Laura.
Yes?
We've got a new sponsor.
Who's our new sponsor?
Well, do you sometimes get a meeting that could have been an email?
Oh, many times I've had a meeting that could have been an email.
Well, this week's sponsor is workmeetingavatar.lol.net.
Well, tell me more.
It's a 3D scan of your face that is basically laid onto an animated character that will, nod and make affirmative noises during meetings that would otherwise have completely wasted your time. Are you here?
I'm here.
Okay.
I'm just making the kind of noises that I suspect this avatar will make.
Okay, I was just checking that you were here in the podcast.
Yeah.
You hadn't sort of somehow managed to hype up your 3D avatar into I can read the rest of the skits and record the rest of the episode.
But the fact that you thought that might be the avatar just tells you how effective just a can be at, being the flow of a conversation.
Yes. Anyway, that's an avatar that can be built of you designed to do all of the basic shit in a meeting, and it also has a little summary feature where it will summarize anything that might be relevant.
Uh-huh.
Look,
Yep.
here's what I got from a meeting I had earlier, and it just says, fuck all. So that's a good...
Uh-huh. Yeah.
I don't know if you're here anymore.
Yeah. Mwah. Can't, Avatar can't do that.
Kisses. Inside the boardroom of Supremacy Software.
Hi. So, I've been trying to come up with new ways we can make money.
Right.
Because I love making money.
I love money.
Money's great.
Yeah.
Money's great. And, like, we've exhausted most of the traditional ways you do, like, you get sponsors to pay to be in the game. We've done, like, here is company logo prominently on a billboard. We've done put the character mascot in the game. You know, we've done all these things.
Yeah.
And I've been trying to be like, what's something new we could do? Something new we could do that's like pushing out the envelope on stuff people might pay us for.
Right.
And I think I've got the new idea.
Right.
I think I've got the new marketing hot shit. What if we speak to a company that we know has like a very clear competitor? So we go to like a Burger King or something and we go, hey, we know that you want to advertise your burgers, but what you really want is to advertise how bad your competition is.
Right.
We will dress up, the enemies in our game in, I don't know, McDonald's uniforms.
Yeah.
And encourage our players, that's the villains, you gotta shoot them.
Yeah.
If you pay us money. We're not promoting your brand, but we're saying the other brand's shit.
Yeah.
You go shoot the guys from the other brand. That'll show how bad their brand is.
Yeah.
And then the first brand gives us money.
I love money.
Yeah. I think this is a foolproof plan, and I cannot see any legal ramifications
None
to
whatsoever.
us filling our game with opportunities to shoot people wearing a corporation's uniforms. That feels like legal can work out the specifics, right?
I'm sure that comes out of fair use somewhere.
Probably. We turned the logo like 45 degrees sideways, and we're like, it's a different thing now.
Welcome to McDonald's.
I mean, that would require a full 90-degree turn, but we could probably get away with it.
Welcome to Endy's.
Mendy's.
Or Aunt Mendy's, I suppose.
I suppose,
yeah.
but you did it sideways, so it'd be like Endy's.
Yeah, I'm just switching everything to one side.
I suppose, yeah. There's a surprising number of companies you can just turn the light on its side, huh?
Shoot the guys from Popeyes.
Yeah, exactly.
You are a fucking genius.
I know.
So, you've listened to things this week.
I have.
Tell us about the things.
I listened to a few things. I listened to a track called Weatherman by a band called Dead Sarah.
Okay.
Yeah, this is a band that I wanted to check out for a little while because this is the previous band of Emily Armstrong, who is the new lead singer of Linkin Park.
Oh.
And I was like, I'm curious what your previous music sounded like. Only listened to one track. It was a good track. It was this sort of femme riot girl kind of track with a sort of grunge vocal about disillusionment with America as sort of the war machine that it is. And I was like, yeah, that's some good, like, grungy, but the guitars are kind of upbeat, anti-establishment rock. I can get behind that.
Yeah.
I listened to a track called Relationship Anxiety by a band called Pollyanna. It's this sort of
Pollyanna.
Yeah.
I feel like we've talked about them on here before.
I think so. I think they've come up before. So this track was a sort of upbeat, more like fast-paced, energetic rock track about struggling both with being alone and with being with others, and being like, I'd be fine with one or the other. I just wish one of them felt comfortable. I wish I could either be comfortable just like living by myself and being fine with that, or living with someone else and living with the compromises that is. And neither of them quite works for me, and I just want to be okay at one of them.
Yeah.
And I was like, that's a good, relatable vibe. I get that.
Yeah.
I've had points in my life where I've struggled with that.
Mm-hmm.
That was a neat track.
Yeah.
Other than that, I've mostly been listening to music ahead of this week. I'm going to a concert.
Yeah.
I'm going to see Rise Against
Yeah.
with support acts LS Dunes and Spiritual Cramp. Spiritual Cramp is the one that is the opening support. They're not one I'd heard before. I checked out a couple of their tracks. They seem interesting. The first one I checked out was a track called Talking on the Internet. It's a rock track with some sort of upbeat electronic sounds in it, and the vocal line is very low, very deep, almost sort of slurred in its performance.
Okay.
There is some vocal effects that I don't have a great name for, but it's very, 80s style New Romantics sort of vocal effects being added.
Okay.
Very much vibes of, 80s working class punk.
Okay.
It's got real lads having a shout down the pub punk energy to it. Yeah. The other one I listened to by them was called Dog in a Cage, which has much clearer inspirations from bands like The Clash. Very, very angry at authority and the government, but very much in a drunk working class lad kind of way.
Okay.
Shit is bad, and we want to have a sort of rowdy shout about it.
Yeah.
Interesting tracks. I'm glad I gave them a listen. The other two are bands I've heard before. LS Dunes, which is the second support act. This is a bunch of members of a bunch of different bands, and I'm blanking on who most of them are off the top of my head.
Group.
Yeah, the one I remember off the top of my head is Frank Iero from My Chemical Romance is in it. And I like a lot of their stuff. It's heavier than I would usually go.
Yeah.
But with they're very good at having clear melody in very heavy tracks. It's not like it's just being led by a sort of down-tuned drop D guitar. They've still got a followable melody line that I appreciate.
Yeah.
In terms of tracks I would recommend, I spent some time today listening on loop to Permanent Rebellion, which is one of my favourite tracks of theirs.
Would you say you were permanently rebelling during that period? I
think Rebellion would be to listen to it once and then go, no, I'm not going to listen to it again, fuck you. But I didn't. I listened to it again because I quite enjoy it.
Yeah.
And then Rise Against, which is one of those bands that really defined my teen years, 2004 through 2007. I was this was my shit. I listened to a bunch of their more popular tracks. I went back and listened to Savior, Prayer of the Refugee, Satellite, Give It All, Re-Education Through Labour. Any of their stuff from their first 4 albums, I was really enjoying having a bit of a nostalgic re-listen.
Yeah.
To give you a sense of how into that band I was in my teens, when I was 15, I was in a band and we did a cover of Prayer of the Refugee.
I've listened to it many times.
Had a lot of fun with that. It was real their music. They were. You go back and look at a lot of their music videos from the mid to late 2000s today, nearly 20 years on, and you go, yeah, you were fairly ahead of your time politically. I appreciate that. What's the one?
Either that or nothing's changed.
Well, I mean, that's, yeah. I think it was, if you go back and watch the video for Re-Education Through Labour, it is a punk show in a basement and flashing up statistics about America that are nope, those are all still very true facts about America. Right there. I think it's Prayer of the Refugee that is, the music video is entirely showing the exploitative practices that go into the supply chains of things in your local supermarket. Savior, I think, is the one that is about massive flooding in in and the
Katrina.
Yeah, your Katrina and similar floods in America. I'm they were. I look back on them 20 years later and I go, I don't feel like I made a bad choice with this politically feeling band.
Which is so uncommon, really,
it's
when
nice
we listen to a lot of metal and rock from that era.
It's nice to feel like I still stand behind the politics of a band I was listening to 20 years ago.
Yeah. I cannot say the same to most of the bands I listened to as a kid.
But yeah, very much looking forward to fun night in music coming up.
Yeah.
What about you? You listened to anything this week?
Yeah, I listened to a couple of things. I listened to a track called Wolf Totem by The Who. That's
Ooh.
HU.
Okay.
It's Mongolian folk metal.
Ooh.
Apparently they're really big. Apparently they played Download last year, I think it was, but I have never heard of them before, and it's like good melodic metal with that very throaty, like Mongolian throat chant.
Yeah,
type.
that's
Like rather than like a growly scream, it's more. It feels like it's coming from a different part
like
of the
it's
body.
got more room to resonate, like that sort of low rumble of a didgeridoo kind of.
Yeah,
like-
it's beautiful to listen to while still being quite aggy.
It's
in a good way.
It's scratchy resonance that doesn't feel like it's being squeezed through a tight spot in the neck.
Oh, yeah, it feels like it was trained rather than something that you might blow your voice out if you attempt to do it at home.
Yeah.
But yeah, very much enjoyed that. I haven't had much of a chance to listen to any more of their stuff yet, but I did very much enjoy that. That was another TikTok recommendation. Thanks, TikTok! And I've been listening through the last season of SCP Archives, which is, I'm going to dub it the alphabet season.
Okay.
Because it's been like SCP number, and then like A is for Apocalypse, or whatever A was for, I can't remember. I did wonder if there was going to be some connection between all these stories, but I don't think there was. I think it was just an excuse to have a through line to come up with some of them, and sometimes the letter that they are about does come up in a particular story. I recently listened through the 3-part story, which it starts with SCP-7603, P for Pluto, which becomes P for Previously Presently, and P is for Primrose, which is a story about a child of a demon from the 9 circles of hell. They control a circle of hell, and Dad has basically just started going out murdering other barons of hell to take over aspects of sin to gain more power.
Okay.
Meanwhile, the mother is trying to be more compassionate and caring and loving, but also has to do all the things you have to do when you're a demon. And it's basically the story of the of Pluto, who is her child, surviving just the father being a complete dick. Which is bad enough from any father, but very specifically from someone who is hell-aligned. And the sort of quest to sort of basically take revenge after Dad murders Mum. But in a way that only, demons and angels can be murdered. Basically, he does this thing where he beheads them and takes their skulls so that they can they're still kind of conscious, aware of their surroundings, but can't die.
Okay.
And their skulls are basically impervious, and the skull ends up at the SCP Foundation in containment, and it's about this child going to the SCP Foundation going, can we decommission Mum's skull? Because she's basically, she's in a vegetative state, but aware enough, but in no way able to do anything about her surroundings, and you've already said that you're not getting any more out of this. Anything, there's no research benefits to this. You've got all you can out of it, can't we just let her go? And yeah, it's a really interesting 3-part story.
Yeah.
Which, was quite sweet. One about a demon that hides around pink neon. Apparently, it basically is this sort of invisible creature. It emits a sound a bit like flickering neons. And it seems to be able to, basically disguise other things as being sort of pink and neon. And so basically, encouraging people in. It's like, come into the bar. Oh no, you've been eaten by a thing that is only visible now by the fact that it's got your friend's torso hanging out of its mouth. That was an interesting story. Trying to think of... M is for Moonlight. It's a really strange one about someone who gets kind of a bit obsessed by the moon, and they're convinced that at some point during Moonrise, when they were a child, they saw the dark side of the moon. And then it sort of ends with them giving a lecture where they explain, like, this whole situation, their obsession with the moon, and, like, where that all started. And then they basically just get sucked into a singularity and liquefied.
Oh!
Because the moon suddenly appears as, like, a supermoon directly above them. They see the dark side of the moon, and then sort of get sucked towards it, and along with, like, several of the students, seemingly. It's a really fucking weird story. But I have kind of appreciated that this series has had a couple of, like, multi-part episodes that have, like, delved into deep things, but also a couple that have been, like, 7 or 8 minute long sort of short stories about SCP stuff, because sometimes those, like, are fascinating ideas that just wouldn't normally be enough to cover in a series like this, but it seems like they tried to get a bunch of episodes up in time for last Halloween. And I'm guessing I am very near the end, because I think the last episode I listened to was released on, like, the 24th of October last year. Yeah. And, I'm only on R, so I've got a ways to go yet.
Yeah.
I'm enjoying that series so far, and, yes, it's good, because we've got to wait at least, I think, another week before we get more Magnus Protocol. Ooh. But soon, there will be more of the good spoopy. Excellent. That's it for me. Have you listened to anything else?
That's it for me.
Well then,
time for this. Oh, give us your money. Give us your money.
That's a big knife.
It's a big knife. Give me big amounts of money.
You want to stay back? I know fondue. Yeah. Yes, hot cheese.
That wasn't martial arts at all.
Hot cheese.
Oh god.
Where?
No, look, the bosses are going to be here for a meeting in like 2 or 3 minutes, and they are like hell-bent on cutting all diversity and inclusive policies in the company. Yep. We've got to find some way to rebrand what we do so we don't lose our jobs.
Right.
Okay. I've hastily written. I've got something here. Can you when the boss comes in, just read this. Tell them this is what we do here.
Okay.
Oh yes. I've been waiting for this meeting. I hear you do some of that DEI bullshit. Is that correct? Is that what we're up to down here?
Our department now focuses on new customer outreach most effectively achieved via the insights of demographic aligned employees and company behaviors.
Oh. That sounds important. That sounds like it's doing something financial for us. Never mind. Off to go find the secret DEI.
I have no idea what I just said.
We want customers who are diverse, and people who work here to be diverse, and company policies to support being diverse.
Are you a lawyer?
Not officially.
That's very good legalese.
I learned it from listening to corporate. I pay attention in meetings.
You don't have one of those 3D avatars?
Nope. Not yet, anyway.
Do you know what I want to see more of?
What do you want to see more of?
Virtual Justice Warriors.
Virtual Justice Warriors?
Yeah.
Right, Harry.
Right, Barry, how you doing?
Oh, it's terrifying at the moment, mate.
That it is, yeah.
You doing alright, mate?
Ah, doing alright. Watching more of the terrible unfold that I probably should be, you know.
Yeah. I mean, you feel like you need to be responsible and, know what's going on in the world, but at the same time...
Yeah, I get you. Well, I have been watching a particular phenomenon unfold this week that, it's not one that I watch with glee, but it's one that I watch and recognise a bit of effectiveness in how the right has marketed some of their own bullshit.
Right. Yeah.
This is watching the phenomenon that's been happening in America of increasing numbers of, let's say, middle-aged, able-bodied, cis white women in America who, may have voted for Trump.
Yeah.
Realising that when Trump says he's going to roll back diversity, equity, inclusion, and accessibility policies in America, that includes things that are going to impact these, white cis women.
Yeah, well, I mean, women in the workplace as a whole...
Indeed. But specifically, these are people who are surprised that these rollbacks are impacting them. It's a specific phenomenon of, I didn't realise that rolling back DEI would mean, I would lose access to things like protection from being fired if I get pregnant.
Yeah, it seems like a lot of them basically just thought, DEI, that's black people.
And as black people and disabled people.
Yeah.
That's.
I'm not one of them, therefore it's fine to vote for this.
Yeah, it's hiring black people who aren't qualified and disabled people as pity hires.
Yeah.
And, not realising that, a lot of companies will not hire women if given half a chance not to hire women.
Yeah.
Because, I know that this is a generalisation, but a lot of companies will view it in these terms. Women can get pregnant, and that's someone we have to pay for 9 months for however many months to be on leave and not be in the office working, and we have to find a replacement. Just easy to hire someone that can't get pregnant.
Yeah.
I know that's a generalisation.
Well,
but,
but and then obviously you get spaces where there's sexism is rife, and they don't believe that women can do a job, any kind of job, as well as a man.
Yeah, exactly.
That all that sort of stuff. It's it is very much coming to bite them in the arse.
And it leads back into things like women being paid less for the same job as men because of all these other pre-existing biases against women in the workplace. These things that have been fought to equalise and to, put initiatives in place to protect women from discrimination.
Yeah.
Those are DEI. Those are diversity, equity and inclusion policies that these women are now suddenly realising, I don't like Trump rolling back DEI now that I realise that impacts me and not just hypothetical group that I don't like or that I can think of as other.
Yeah, I've been hearing a lot of this wasn't supposed to happen to me a lot in the last week or so.
I've seen some people, taking glee in this, in the sort of, the left's eating faces party come and eat in your face.
Yeah.
I get that, but I also think, I think it's less important to focus on that than it is to go, there is a lot to be learned from the right's very effective propaganda around DEI and the ways that they have gotten people to vote. And this is the right in general. Getting people to vote against their own self-interest by getting them to see policies that will negatively affect them as negatively affecting someone over there. And not packaging it in a way that hides the fact, no, it's going to hurt you. But you'll vote for your own downfall because we tell you it's hurting them and they're the villain. You want to see them get hurt, right?
Yeah. I mean, I've seen a lot of stuff talking about how people had heard about Project 2025 before the election, and their left wing friends, family, whatever, had tried to warn them about what the plan was.
Yeah.
And them going, no, he said that's all fake and a lie, and now suddenly very much realising that is absolutely what's happening right now. And, as you say, I take no pleasure in it, but I don't really know what they do now. Because the point is they have voted him in, all these terrible things are happening, and it's, it's certainly not the time for I told you so. I'm also...
It's the time for we really need you to learn from this.
Yes, and we need you to act and do things about it right now, because,
You are the ones they will... there is a chance they might listen to, because they don't want to lose your vote next time around.
Assuming there is a chance to vote ever again.
I'm trying to keep some degree of hope there.
Well, true. I must admit I am struggling with finding hope watching news coming out of the US this week.
I mean, I am feeling very similarly, honestly. It does feel like a lot of the early stages of a person trying to entrench themselves into a position they cannot be removed from are happening in ways that are pretty fucking terrifying. But,
genuinely. Yeah.
Gosh.
Very young, mate.
Yeah.
Good luck, mate. Good luck. Right, I think we're going to have a little lie down.
Oh, sounds good.
Nice.
So, Laura,
Yes.
tell people where find you.
Laura K. Buzz on the internet,
Yeah.
on all the places where stuff is online. That's where.
I swear.
Over on YouTube, there's what do we got at the moment? I'm continuing doing my watch along and react to Wandering Sun, the anime that I watched like 15 years ago and came out that same day. I am 9 episodes in out of 12, and episode 9. The episode is 20 minutes long. My reaction was over an hour. This is the episode that made me go, oh, I see why I had to come out the night I watched this.
Right.
It is, in amongst other thoughts I had about it, it is the episode that most clearly brought back memories of going, trans woman lead character, you're never... The universe is going to give you a million reasons not to do this. You have to just do it. You just have to do it. You can't wait for it to be perfect. You've just got to do it. Ah, fuck. I've gotten annoyed at an external character getting more fixated on the reasons not to do it than the reasons to do it.
And that's how you get transed.
That's how you get transed, is you get annoyed at the character and then realise the character is you. You go, oh fuck. But also got into some very interesting conversations about like the differences in dynamics about transition depending on gender and how particularly like differences in how transition is seen depending on how your transition is going. Also, some really interesting conversations about, like, trans mask characters being weirdly like, oh no, it's different when you do it, trans femme, and not realize, like, there was some frustrating but fascinating hypocrisy going on that I really kind of got dug into.
Right.
It was real interesting in that it made me hate some characters in ways where I'm pretty confident there's going to be consequences and it'll turn around, but I had some moments of like, oh, fuck you for not being here to support her right now. Fuck you. I had so many thoughts about this one episode. Go watch this series. We're 3/4 of the way through, but episode 9 is the one that really... Most of these reactions have been like about double the length of the episode.
Yeah.
This one was about triple. I spent twice as long talking about it as the episode itself took.
That's transformative work.
Right, that's transformative commentary, that.
Yeah.
When I have tripled the length of an episode because one sentence happens, I was like, I'm right, I need to keep talking about it again. This I felt like I was in the same sort of territory as that person I've been following who is doing half-an-hour reviews of single songs from Epic.
Yes.
I'm like, oh yeah, I'm putting my work in.
So that exists on your YouTube channel.
that exists on YouTube. Laura K. Buzz, you'll find the stuff I'm up
Yeah.
to. What about you, Jane? Where are you on the internet?
I don't have... I was going to say I don't have a YouTube, but I do have a YouTube.
Yeah.
There's not much on there anymore. I have a link tree, linktree.ee/Janiac, JANEIAC. You can find all the things I've done, and you can help support me at patreon.com/stonedmonkeyradio. As little as $1 a month. It really helps out. And, yeah, that's it for me. So, Laura,
Yeah.
would you sing us out, please, darling?
Until next time, be a stranger.